They said the storm ended their season, but for Monica Beets, it was just the beginning. What she found under that flooded pit could rewrite Beets' family history and uncover a secret buried for more than 3 decades. If you love stories of real gold, real risk, and hidden pasts finally surfacing, make sure to hit like and subscribe, because this one changes everything. The Yukon still smelled like rain and diesel when Monica Beets pulled back onto the claim. 2 weeks of work. Gone. The creek had swelled into a monster, tearing through their sluices, flooding the pit, and dragging half their pay dirt downstream. Most of the crew stood around in silence, boots sinking into mud, the hum of broken engines echoing in the cold. Tony didn't have to say a word. His glare said it all. Another lost cut, another wasted fortune. But Monica couldn't look away from the numbers on her monitor. Even through the static and flood damage, her sensors were lighting up with strange anomalies. Thin golden spikes where there should have been nothing but tailings. The readings didn't make sense. This pit had been marked waste years ago. Tony himself had signed it off. Yet the deeper the water pooled, the stronger the signals became. It was as if the storm had stirred up something ancient, something untouched. That night, when everyone turned in, she stayed behind. The pumps coughed back to life under her flashlight, slicing into the trench's black water. The diesel gauge dropped fast, but she didn't care. Kevin's voice crackled through the radio. "You're burning fuel we don't have, Mon." "Dad's gonna lose it." She muted the channel. By dawn, the trench was low enough to see the floor, except it wasn't just gravel. Lining the edge were wooden planks, straight, hand-cut, wedged deep into clay. They looked like the remains of some old support structure, buried and forgotten. She climbed down, boots sinking in muck, and ran her hand across one of the planks. Old cedar, rough but solid, not something nature would have placed. Near the center, half buried under silt, a rusted metal tag caught her eye. She wiped it clean. The letters barely showed through the corrosion. Lot 7, Beets Prospect, 1989. For a long moment, Monica just stared at it. That was the year her father nearly lost the claim after a collapse. The year no one in the family talked about anymore. She pocketed the tag and shut off the pumps before sunrise, pretending nothing had happened. Back at the main cabin, Tony's old logbooks sat stacked in a steel trunk, yellowed and forgotten. She flipped through pages of yield notes, weather logs, and fuel records until one caught her eye. A small notebook with no label, stuffed with rough sketches of the valley, hand-drawn ridges, claim lines, and shallow cross-sections marked with half-erased notes. One page stopped her cold, a jagged tunnel line running beneath their current site, marked only with 3 words: Canyon Drift, too deep, unstable. Monica opened her tablet and overlaid the hand-drawn map onto the current GPS grid. The lines matched almost perfectly. The forbidden trench, the spot Tony had called waste, sat directly above that abandoned drift. She realized the old 1989 operation had dug deeper than they ever admitted, and if that drift had collapsed before being mined out, there could be untouched pay still trapped below. Her heartbeat quickened. She remembered the wooden planks, the strange sensor readings, the rusted marker with her family's name on it. Everything pointed to one thing. The Beets had been sitting on something for decades, without even knowing, or maybe Tony had known all along. She closed the notebook, slid it into her jacket, and stepped outside into the cold Yukon air. The horizon glowed faintly gold as dawn broke over the valley, but Monica's mind wasn't on the sunrise. Every line she'd read buzzed in her head like live current. If that drift really cut beneath the trench, then someone, maybe even her father, had left more than just a failed tunnel down there. By nightfall, she couldn't wait any longer. Once the machines went silent and the crew packed out, Monica stayed behind, pacing the edge of the pit until the lights from the workshop faded. That was the window. She called Juan over. He was the only one she trusted with delicate work. No cameras, no questions, just results. Together they hauled the portable microdrill down into the trench, its narrow auger glinting under the floodlights. Just a calibration test, she told him, even though they both knew it wasn't. The hum of the drill cut through the cold night air as they bored into the trench floor. At 12 feet, the bits suddenly screeched, locking against something harder than gravel. Juan frowned. "Quartz?" he muttered. That was impossible. This part of the claim sat on riverbed. Monica crouched as the drill came back up, slurry dripping down the side of the sample tube. When the light hit it, both of them froze. Gold. Fine, raw flakes suspended in dark sand, glittering like fire in oil. "That's not tailings," Juan whispered. She nodded, bagging the sample and marking it as equipment test. Nobody else needed to know yet, not until she had proof of what lay beneath. They packed up the rig and killed the lights just before dawn, but across the yard, someone was watching. Tony stood at the edge of the lot, coffee steaming in his hand, eyes locked on the faint glow still burning from Monica's pit. He didn't say a word, but Monica could feel his suspicion like static in the air. The next morning he cornered her by the excavator, voice sharp and low. "You been burning diesel on a hole I told you to abandon?" She met his glare without flinching. "You wrote that ground off 30 years ago, Dad." "But it's not dead. There's activity down there. You missed it." His jaw tightened. "I didn't miss anything. You're wasting time and fuel we can't spare." The argument drew half the crew's attention. Kevin tried to cut in, but Tony's voice overpowered them all. "You're moving to the new cut today. That's final." Monica stared back, silent, then nodded once. "Fine." She walked off before he could say another word, but that night she slipped into the control cabin and reactivated the underground sensors she'd buried near the drift line. The screens flickered to life, ghostly green patterns dancing across the radar grid. For hours, the data stayed flat, until suddenly one section lit up in irregular pulses. The signal formed a dome-shaped void about 20 feet beneath the trench, a hollow space. Her fingers hovered over the keys as she expanded the scan. It wasn't a tunnel. It was a sealed cavity, like a natural vault encased in stone. The surrounding density looked wrong too, like something metallic was trapped inside. Monica's pulse quickened. Could it be that the 1989 team had broken into a chamber and sealed it back up? But why would they? She needed eyes underground. Quietly, she called in 2 of the night shift operators, men loyal to her, not Tony, and told them they were testing for ground stability. They brought in a smaller rig with a narrow coring bit, drilling beside the previous hole. The machine growled against the rock until, with a sudden jerk, the pressure dropped. The bit punched through empty space. A soft hiss rose from below as air escaped. Warm, stale, older than anything that should have been trapped in permafrost. The crew exchanged nervous looks. Monica lowered a bore camera through the shaft. The feed came online, grainy, dark, shapes half lost in shadow. At first, it was just stone and broken timber. Then something metallic flashed across the frame. She froze the image, zooming in. Iron tools, pickaxes, rusted buckets, frozen in time. Then came the glint. Not reflection, not fool's gold. Real, heavy gleam cutting through dust and darkness. A mass of yellow light shifting at the bottom of the cavern. The camera lens adjusted, revealing what looked like slabs, solid, angular, half-buried under sediment. Monica leaned closer to the monitor, heart hammering. Juan whispered, "That's not natural deposit. Someone left that down there." The camera feed shook slightly as if something had disturbed the line, sending particles drifting through the air. Monica didn't blink. "Seal the borehole," she said quietly. "No one touches this until I say." The crew obeyed, filling the shaft and covering it with gravel to blend it into the site. By sunrise, Tony would think nothing happened. The pumps would be silent, the site untouched. But under that patch of Yukon dirt, Monica had just opened the first door to a buried world, a secret her father's generation had hidden, and that she was now one step away from uncovering. She sat in her truck as the first light bled over the valley, fingers trembling on the steering wheel. Those timbers weren't natural. They were placed, measured, deliberate, like someone meant to seal something in, not dig it out. Whoever had worked that drift before hadn't just mined it. They'd buried it. By mid-morning, she was already on the highway to Dawson City, chasing a hunch she couldn't shake. The sky hung low and gray over the river as she parked outside the old mining records office. Inside, dust floated through shafts of light like smoke. Permits, claim logs, geological charts, every wall a paper map of Yukon ambition. She spent hours combing through the archives until her hands were black with ink and grime. Then she found it. A Beets family permit dated 1989, stamped revoked. The reason, typed in faint letters, read, "Unreported findings. Site closed by order of Mining Council." She flipped the page and froze. Tony's signature was there, bold and unmistakable, but the description of the location had been redacted with thick black ink. The coordinates, the assay data, even the yield estimates, all wiped clean. Monica pressed her fingers against the page, tracing the black bar like it could give way under pressure. She asked the clerk for the original file. He shook his head. "That record's sealed, sweetheart. You'd need a special permit to open that." On the long drive back to camp, the realization sank in. Her father hadn't just missed something back then. He'd found something. And if the paperwork was revoked for unreported findings, it meant Tony might have hidden it intentionally, maybe to dodge taxes or claim jumpers. But what kind of discovery was big enough to bury an entire operation? By the time she reached the claim, whispers were already circulating. The night crew had talked. Someone mentioned seeing the drill lights. Someone else had heard the bore camera footage described in fragments. Timbers, metal, the flash of gold. The camp buzzed with rumor. Had Tony found a gold vein decades ago and covered it up? Monica ignored the noise. She had a chamber to reach. Under cover of darkness, she fired up the micro rig again. Juan adjusted the alignment, setting the bit along the same bore path as before, but extending deeper. The hum of machinery vibrated through the mud, rhythmic and sharp. At 40 feet, the pressure reading dipped. The bit had entered open space again. The slurry came up thick and heavy, reeking of minerals. When they emptied the bucket into the separator, black sand poured out like smoke. The smell was metallic, the kind that coats your tongue. She ran the first pan herself. Under her light, The concentrate gleamed. Not dust, not fragments, but chunks. Coarse gold mixed with flecks of quartz, pure and raw, the kind of material no modern cut could produce anymore. Monica didn't speak. She just pointed at the mats, and Juan started filming. They processed another small batch through the old wash plant, the same one Tony used in the early 90s, its rusted screens rattling with every shake. When the mats came out, they were heavy enough to bend in her hands. She flipped one open, and gold spilled across the steel table in a shimmering trail. They ran an overnight assay test. The result hit just before dawn. $4,200 per cubic yard. Monica stared at the number on the tablet, her heart racing. It wasn't just rich. It was absurd. Ground like that didn't exist anymore. Not in the Yukon, not anywhere. She backed up every recording, every scan, every sample result to a separate drive, labeling it only as Red Vault. Proof that this was the richest ground the Beets had ever touched. Proof that her father had known and sealed it away. By mid-morning, the noise of drills reached Tony's cabin. The old man stepped out, face hard as steel, and saw the pit alive with equipment he hadn't authorized. The moment he recognized the micro-rig, he stormed down the slope. Workers scattered as he shouted for the engines to cut. Monica didn't stop. The core sample tubes were still being lifted when his voice tore through the air. "What the hell is this?" She didn't turn around. "You tell me," she said, gesturing at the monitor. The feed played the cavern footage, the timbers, the tools, and finally the slab of gold gleaming under the bore light. Tony's expression didn't change at first. Then slowly, it hardened into something between fear and anger. "Turn those cameras off," he ordered. "Now!" Kevin stepped forward, dirt on his hands, confusion in his eyes. "Dad, this is real. We can't just bury it again. People deserve to see it. This isn't about people," Tony snapped. "This is about survival." "You don't know what you're opening up." Monica played the assay footage. The sound of clinking gold filled the air. The camera panned over the mats, the glittering concentrate, the data screen showing the unbelievable yield. Tony stared at it for a long moment, silent. Then he reached over and yanked the power cord from the monitor, killing the feed. "Pack it up," he said coldly. "All of it." The sights shut down. "No," Monica said quietly. "Not this time." Tony turned, eyes blazing. "You think you can run this operation without me?" "I already am," she said. The camp went dead quiet. Even the machines seemed to pause. Kevin broke the silence. "She's right, Dad. You can't keep hiding the past." Tony's jaw clenched. "You think you understand what happened here? You don't. That gold cost me more than you'll ever know." Monica stepped closer, face inches from his. "Then maybe it's time everyone finally did." Without another word, she pulled the hard drive from the data rig, slipped it into her jacket, and walked past him toward the trucks. No cameras, no press, no crew following, just the crunch of her boots in the gravel as the sun broke over the valley. Behind her, Tony stood frozen, staring down at the pit that refused to stay buried. By nightfall, word had already started leaking through the Yukon grapevine. Truckers talking, crew members whispering, a few blurred stills slipping into private group chats. Monica said nothing. She kept to herself, guarding the drive like it was part of her heartbeat. But secrets like that don't stay sealed for long. A week later, the internet detonated. It started as a shaky 30-second clip. Gold-streaked mats, Monica's voice off camera saying, "This changes everything." Within hours, it was everywhere. Mining forums, fan pages, even late-night talk shows picked it up. The hashtags spread faster than the frost line. Hashtag Beets Vault, hashtag Hidden Gold, hashtag Monica Strike. And suddenly, everyone wanted to know the same thing. Had Monica Beets uncovered a secret gold hoard her father buried decades ago? The production team at Discovery called her phone non-stop, demanding answers. When she didn't pick up, they went to Tony. He gave them nothing but silence. By the third day, the network sent a legal rep to the claim. Tony met them in his office trailer, jaw set, eyes bloodshot. "You don't air a damn thing," he growled. But it was already too late. The clips had come from inside the Yukon, uploaded by a freelance editor who'd worked on the show's B-roll. The digital watermark confirmed it. Once the footage hit the major outlets, the speculation became unstoppable. Viewers dissected every frame, the timbers in the borehole, the reflection on the camera lens, the faint pattern in the dirt that looked like stacked bars. Some claimed it was a lost gold cache from the 1800s. Others said it was a government test site. One theory insisted Tony Beets had found treasure so rich, in 1989, he'd shut it down to keep the claim for himself. Discovery had no choice but to respond. They scheduled a press call, and Monica showed up unannounced, walking straight onto the stage beside the stunned producers. She took the microphone before anyone else could speak. "It was never about hiding anything," she said. "It was about finishing what my father started and what he chose to bury. That gold belongs to the Yukon, to the Beets family, to the people who never stopped digging." Then she dropped the line that ignited the headlines. "It was never his to hide. It's ours to mine." That same night, hashtag Monica Beets trended across the continent. Sponsors called, investors called. Even rival miners sent congratulations thinly disguised as curiosity. Tony stayed silent for 3 days. On the 4th, he caved. He ordered the equipment to be prepped, permits reissued, and the site reopened under full supervision of Discovery's crew. The official excavation of what fans were already calling the Canyon Vault had begun. The day the vault was breached, half the Yukon seemed to be watching. Drones circled overhead as heavy machinery peeled back layers of frozen overburden. Monica stood at the edge, helmet strapped tight, her expression unreadable. Tony watched from the control truck, hands clasped. The bore path was widened cautiously until the cavity appeared, a dark mouth opening in the permafrost. When the first daylight hit the chamber, the crowd went silent. The air that drifted out was thick with iron and dust. Cameras followed as miners descended through a reinforced shaft into the darkness. Their headlamps swept across the cavern's interior, then froze. The floor shimmered faintly. Not dust, not flakes. Bars, rows of gold bars, fused with quartz and frozen under a sheet of rock. Each one was stamped with markings too eroded to read, but the weight was unmistakable. Dozens of them, layered in sediment, edges dull with age. Behind them, decayed crates collapsed into piles of rusted nails and splinters. Iron tools lay scattered, some buried in silt, others resting neatly where they'd been left decades earlier. Monica followed the team down, her boots echoing in the chamber. She picked up one of the bars, brushing off dirt until it caught the light. The gold gleamed, untouched, unrefined, impossibly pure. She turned to the camera crew. "This isn't just a vein," she said quietly. "This was stored." The network brought in experts from Dawson City, Carbon dating on the timbers came back days later, late 1970s, older than the Beets claim. That meant whoever built the vault had done it before Tony ever broke ground. And yet, Tony's signature was still on the revoked permit. When the final tally came in, the estimate floored everyone. Between the visible bars and the gold still trapped in the surrounding black sand, the canyon vault held an estimated $85 million in recoverable gold. Cameras rolled as Monica made the announcement, her voice steady but heavy with disbelief. The crowd behind her erupted into cheers. Reporters flooded the site. Tony tried to avoid them, but eventually a microphone caught him near the loaders. "She found what I couldn't finish," he said simply. "That's all there is to it." Within days, the Beets family's story flipped from scandal to legend. Headlines praised Monica for reviving the dynasty, for proving the Beets still ruled Yukon gold. Tony, who had been the face of the operation for decades, was suddenly the mystery at its core. The man who hid a fortune to protect it from the world. For the first time in years, the Beets camp worked together without shouting. Tony oversaw safety and equipment. Kevin ran the wash plant. Monica commanded the dig site. She renamed the new drift Redemption Cut, carving the name into a steel sign at the entrance. Under the glare of floodlights, crews cleared the remaining debris from the vault. Every few minutes, another bar would surface, another reminder of how deep the secret went. Tony rarely spoke, but when he did, his tone was softer. One evening, as they watched the mats fill with new gold pulled from the vault's edge, he said quietly, "You were right to dig. I didn't bury that gold to hide it from you. I buried it so no one else could take it." Monica didn't answer. She just kept watching the sluice, the flow of black sand turning liquid gold in the light. For her, the victory wasn't just in the numbers. It was in uncovering truth buried beneath generations of silence. But the story didn't stop there. As the excavation wrapped, the geotech team ran one final sonar sweep beneath the vault floor, ensuring the chamber was stable. The screen flickered, then returned a faint echo, another hollow pocket, deeper than the first, perfectly circular. Monica leaned over the technician's shoulder. The reading was weak but unmistakable. An air pocket sealed in solid bedrock nearly 60 feet below. Tony frowned. Probably just an old collapse. Monica didn't look away from the screen. Or it's another vault. The technician adjusted the range. The echo sharpened. Whatever was down there had structure. Straight lines, corners, density different from the surrounding rock. A pattern, deliberate and precise. Monica stepped back, the hum of machinery fading around her. The cameras were still rolling, capturing her expression. Calm, calculating, almost electric. She's
hard. Move.
Oh!
What?
It wasn't what I thought. It's actually got like a bit of quartz to it.
Yeah, that's that shaly schist. Stop.
Oh.
But that, what you're, the big chunk is not. That's reef. Get your pull those bits out. You just pop a lot of sides. Polly, go. Move. Okay, you got movement in that,
That dog?
yeah, that big chunk there. That's a bit there. He's coming out.
Come on, baby. Get out. Yeah. Alright.
Okay. Now try Jimmy from the other side down there because we want to get that bit out whole.
Yeah.
Move, girl, move. And see, that's getting all that shifty shit off.
Oh,
You
the
all right?
trip's done.
Okay.
Go, Steve. Go, Steve. It's like the jar. It's like the jar, Steve. You I loosened the jar for you, really. Come here, Polly. Come here. Yes.
Okay, this is it. Yeah, we're gonna have to take all this shit. Okay.
Is it gold?
Where's the pinpointer?
Is it gold?
Yeah, she's gold, all right.
It is gold. I can see it. Oh, it's fucking reef!
So you're gonna have to take all this, look at this. There.
Oh, the Chucky's gonna cry!
Yeah, good on you.